voluntary counseling sessions. Yeah.
Okay. So as we go towards our wrapping up, what role then do you think the private sector should be playing in addressing gender-based violence and harassment? And as you think about it, do you think there are some collaborations maybe that the private sector should be considering to strengthen prevention and response? What more should the private sector be doing?
So maybe let me say that this topic is an untidy topic, right? It's very untidy, and corporates don't like untidy topics. So you'd rather, as a corporate, even if you have a budget, and this would go under CSR or ESG, which is the buzzword now, they would rather push money towards cleaner topics like education, for example, and that's why you have one of the big banks having a very robust education, needs to fly. And I'm telling you, the money that's pumped into that is crazy. You'd rather have an organization like ours that has a children's fund, and that children's fund is really to educate underprivileged children, to provide health care for amputees, and just as long as you're a minor, eye surgeries, hearing aids, because those are cleaner, more navigatable topics that are not personal. I really don't know of any corporate, and I know I could be wrong, that openly associates with gender-based violence. That is an area that is very emotive. It has a lot of strings attached in terms of everyone is very opinionated about it. So for corporates, my experience is that if it's controversial, no. There are many other less controversial things you want to throw money behind. Unfortunately.
So should we do nothing?
For us specifically, now we come to plan last year for Sauti Salama, whereby we provide a place whereby corporates can volunteer their staff. For instance, we have a mental health track, and also a legal track. And here we ask lawyers to volunteer pro bono to come and support survivors. So maybe these are avenues that non-corporates can actually plug in and support using solutions like ours. There's also mental health experts who come and just offer support to volunteers for free, because we don't have the money to even we will just provide them a platform. I think that's what corporates should actually try to do.
So corporates should collaborate with organizations that are actively doing work in this space.
Additionally, there's also the part about, as you mentioned, I actually took insight from the point you say whereby you outsource to the company in South Africa that was Deloitte Anonymous. I feel that we should also have outside organizations, say in Kenya, that can facilitate this for corporates. So long as I know that it's somebody outside the organization that's handling this, I won't feel that my data will leak or this. But so long as companies and corporates have tracks whereby this information or these reports can be sent to outside support organizations, then they can be able to help their team members within the company.
And what should we be doing on the regulatory or legal space, perhaps in terms of advocacy?
What should the corporates be doing in the capacity solutions? Because a lot of these matters are the victim has, the organization does not launch a complaint on behalf of the victim. The best way for corporations to do that is what I explained. You've done investigations, you have all this material that can help them build the case. Provide this to them. If they do launch the case, support them. Because usually if something happens within the organization and you don't address it, the employee can sue the company from the you don't have to be a party to the litigation, you do not have to fund it, but whatever material you have, kind of had to provide it, it will cost you nothing because you've already done the work, you've already done the investigations and whatever it is. Yeah.
Are there any parting thoughts before we wrap up?
Just as a suggestion, also what most private institutions can collaborate or can improvise is the way we have an HR department, we have finance department. Why can't also we have a gender-based department so that we have a trained personnel who can actually has gone to the institution, maybe to the university, has trained on that, so that we don't over rely on the HR to be so overwhelmed with a lot of things and they're not able to deliver to the mandate that they're supposed to do. Yes.
So that issue of accountability, I think, also came up in the earlier session. And the fact that with everything else in terms of the business operations, there are KPIs, there are metrics. But for some reason, this is an area that just falls through the cracks. So perhaps it is that we need organizations to actually have performance indicators for this area as well.
And also just somebody shared about data. Just to have that on it, like our organization maybe has this and this, and because of GBV reporting or this and this data, we were able to improve our profits to this level, or we're able to have a market access. So some of the corporates will have a change of perspective that actually this GBV is actually affecting the productivity of corporates, or also it boosts the image of the organization.
Any other parting thoughts? Yeah.
I think for corporates, bottom line, we can say what we want to say, that we are responsible corporate citizens, etc. But if it's not making money, it's really, let's not waste time. It has to make money, return on investment, and then some more for you to now start spending. So my thoughts are that from a regulatory point of view, and I feel like this is sort of shifting now the work to another sector.
Yeah.
If the regulators, if the government can impose some of these things, like for example, I'll tell you, we never thought about sexual harassment. In fact, sex and workplace, although it is commonplace, it's a reality, they are not in the same frame. That's a very disjointed whatever. But the day it became law, that as an organization, you have to have a sexual harassment policy. Now there, everyone sits up and it's done, not because it's a good thing, not because we are worried about the agendas, not because we simply have to do it. And then now HR runs with it, and puts all these, the frills around the skirt. So I think government has a huge role to play to make it mandatory to have some of these policies and some of these mechanisms and metrics, how they can measure how you're, maybe, once in 2 years audit, and this would really work for the regulated entities rather than for just private sector. Regulators saying, hey, we want to see a legal and compliance audit once in 2 years, those are already there. And one of the parameters we want to see is how you are measuring up on, this whole area of gender, violence or sexual, whatever. I think that would really, it is only then that it will give people teeth. Whether it's HR, whether it's head of legal, whether it's director, to be able to say, hey guys, this is now law, you need to allocate some budget to it.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and I'll come to you now. One of the things currently in Kenya is that Kenya has not yet ratified the International Labour Organization Convention 190, so the ILO C 190, which speaks to a lot of these issues.
Okay.
including the issue of the broader world of work, because we've been talking about victims and survivors, but very much in the context of the workplace. But if you think of the broader world of work, which is what the C190 looks at, the fact that a lot of us are working remotely. So I could be victimized by someone who's sitting in the US and they are doing it online. I could be victimized by customers. I mean, someone was talking earlier about an example of their early job in the restaurant space. Customer is king, but customer comes and they are victimizing you. Some organizations need certifications from government departments. The person who goes there is going to be asked for sexual favors to get the certificate. How are we going to address all of those things? And so I do think that the conversation around Kenya ratifying the ILO C190 is taking place. And when that happens, then the next stage is that they start making things legislated around what organizations should be doing. Sorry, I
just wanted to add on what she was saying. I think that one also refers the whole to the companies and organizations of good ways to be able to lobby and advocate for such in parliament.
Absolutely.
As a bill, so those who have the goodwill, they have the muscle, they can be able to push a bill in parliament, because for such things also to go and be practical, I think it has to go through parliament. So the importance of lobbying and advocacy is also very important to even that extent. So I think the organizations that are already even lead us even in that respect should go ahead and table a bill in parliament, and then let's see how that's going to go. And I know, because even if it's pushed well, if it's advocated well, we're going to have law, maybe even an act on the same that's going to guide, and then that's going to be enforceable.
Yeah. And sometimes these things are happening right at the very top, right? So in South Africa, there's been a very public case of a Supreme Court judge. Right?
Yeah.
And yet you see in that whole instance, the burden of proof lying on the victim, where the victim is now the one who seems to be under cross-examination. And so it really begs the question of, we have our patriarchal issues, society, and then we also have the hierarchy issues to contend with.
Who will got the guns?
So I don't know if there's nothing more to add.
I can add one thing.
Yes.
She mentioned that the issue of being gender-based or sexual in the workplace is considered entitled. It's very correct, but I'm thinking a lot of the entitlement comes because it's immediately considered a social issue, very contextual, so everybody has opinions. But the reason why corporate space is regulated as corporate space and the finances are different, everything about it is separate, is because it's a very definable space. We have something called the Employment Health and Safety Hazard. It's a whole act that ensures you keep employees safe, why you need to give them safety wear and what while we're looking for GPV to be included in this compliance audits, we should also lobby for it to be included under this safety health hazards to remove the otherness that is associated with that, because it's considered very, very separate from everything else, and yet it's affecting everything, even the business case of the organization. So it's a very definable space. So if we can really start defining it, and within this parameter, the lobbying will become less than tiny, and you will have a roadmap of what you're actually talking about. Because if you come in with a blanket argument, if you come in from a social justice aspect of it, does not make business sense. But if you categorize it specifically, tailor it for corporate, and speak the language, speak the numbers, and make it make sense, the same way why giving your minors and arts makes sense, make giving make sense in the same way, so that it's compliance, so that we don't have separate compliance requirements for everything else and this one separately.
We have a class.
You have a class? What time is your class starting?
Started at 5.
Oh, really? I think we're booked until 5:30. Okay. We are winding down. Thank you so much. We will wrap up now.
Okay.